Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Savannah Rose. I make videos about living the brightest life you can, starting with what you have right now. In this video, I want to start off by letting you guys know that 2021 is going to be a year that involves much more spiritual content, much more of my spiritual journey, how I am progressing into it, and this video is actually just going to be about why I started to dive so deeply into it. I have always been a pretty spiritual person, but as of 2020 and through the year, there have been so many particular things that have made me want to become more spiritual, want to practice my spirituality more, connect more with myself, practice tarot and meditating and things like that, and I want to share the things that led up to that with you in this video. Currently filming spontaneously at the park right now, and there are a bunch of duckies. And there's one big ugly ducky right there. Big ugly ducky. The biggest thing that got me into my spirituality really was just kind of always knowing. So during primarily like my late adolescence, like going into my 20s, I started to have a lot of like feelings and just feelings that things were gonna happen, coincidences, and my mom has always told me that she has always had somewhat of a sixth sense. There have been times where my mom would like smell fire and then like all of a sudden find out that like a friend that she hasn't heard from in weeks like had their house burned down. Or for her, she gets frequently visited by past family members, has a very strong sense for energy. I've just always loved learning about why people are the way that they are. I've always just kind of innately understood psychology, understood things like if something happens in your childhood, then it's going to affect this specific part of your development, and even being like to the point of like being able to guess why somebody has a certain trait because of something happening in their past. Of course, a lot of this happened from experiencing trauma throughout my life, and going through things like having an eating disorder and like getting cheated on and having my mom move away and my dad disown me and that whole like shabacle. Is that how you say that? Shabacle. I just went through a lot of things that made me very aware of what that would lead to in regards to somebody else's experiences and somebody else's journey. I also have always been very sensitive, primarily, like I said, primarily in my 20s, been very sensitive to people's energy. I always have a gut feeling when I first meet somebody about if they're going to be a good person for me or if they're going to be a negative influence or they're going to negatively affect me in any way. About 2 years ago, I made a video about like my sociopath friend, and that was right before I really started to get really in tune with feeling people's energies and being able to tell like, oh, this is going to be a good person for me, oh, this is not. In fact, actually when I started to really get into it and really progress was right when we had our falling out, and I was like, I don't want you in my life, this is just not a good thing, because I went from naive little girl who didn't really pick up on energies and was so busy going through my own trauma to even notice those things to, whoa, I don't like the vibes you're giving me right now and we're just having a normal conversation. I've had various people come across my path who led me in different ways towards different aspects of my spirituality. I had a friend while I was working at Starbucks, I think it was like last year, like around November. We went to this metaphysical and spiritual convention back when, you know, you could go out in public and do things, and well, I mean out in public and like not super far away from people, but whatever. But we went to this metaphysical and spiritual convention, and it was my first time being around a bunch of really high vibrational people who were all very in touch. And I remember people would be in the middle of readings with other people and they would turn and look at me, and they would turn and notice me, and we walked up to this one woman that he felt called to get a reading from, and her apprentice was like, your energy is all over the place, like you are very obviously shaken right now, you're very sensitive to all the energies that are in this room. She recommends, and I actually have it with me today, she recommended that I buy a jet. And so my friend David bought me this, and I carry it with me whenever I feel like I need to ground myself a bit more. Somebody just popped their bike tire. So that started to pique my interest in crystals, and my mom, within the past couple months, has started to get interested in crystals. And so for Christmas she got me, I already have like a light crystal collection, but for Christmas she got me a like chakra healing crystal set and a beginner book, a beginner crystals book. And so I've been learning more about that. I've been, obviously, as I just showed you, been carrying around more crystals. Like I even have this one, this orange calcite. I've been carrying this one with me because I actually funny story, I actually kept forgetting that the sacral chakra is a thing. Like I would constantly count them and I'd be like, there's 6, where's the 7th one, which one is it? And that happened to be the one that I need the most work in healing, as I have PCOS and a bunch of other things that I'm dealing with, and I'll make a separate video more on that because that's more of a whole topic. My best friend, who I really got close with my sophomore year of high school, I met in middle school and we were in like the same friend group. She just kind of like found our friend group and ended up getting super close with all of us. And she is very interested in astrology, always has been. I've always had like slight interest, but she really pushed me to go further into it, to get my chart laid out for me, to look further into those things, to explore the houses and the placements and all of those sorts of things that I don't exactly have my head wrapped around yet, but to the point where like I could pretty finitely pick out at the very least what element your sign is upon first meeting you, or at least one of the top 3 in your chart. Like if I look at you and I go fire is at least going to be your sun, moon, or rising. Part of that is just from the feeling and putting all of these things together within myself. It's all been a very accumulative kind of thing. The trauma brought the empathy and the like psychoanalysis, understanding of people, interest in people and why they are the way that they are. My dad was very interested in self-help and like business development and things like that. And so I, from the time that I was a freshman in high school, was interested in the law of attraction and The Secret and getting to a better point within myself. I mean, I manifested my first like real good relationship in high school. I wrote a list of all the things that I wanted in a guy, and he was everything but the like, you know, he didn't have the like flippy hair and he played an instrument. It was just the ukulele and not the guitar, but like otherwise I pulled that list out like shortly after we got together and was like, my jaw dropped. 2020 was obviously a very difficult year for everyone. And so I really started in February. I left my job. I was working 70 hours a week. It literally got to the point where I was like bedridden because I was covered in stress rashes, like full body, head to toe, out. I think allergy, but mostly stress rashes. Because I've never gotten a rash like that since. It was horrendous. I thought that I was just allergic to dairy, but I've had dairy since then, and like it was time to go. I was getting vertigo to the point where I couldn't stand up and I had to get sent home. I had to go to a doctor and they were like, oh, you just have allergies. And I was like, that doesn't even make any sense. Why do I have allergies that are giving me vertigo to the point where I'm swaying when I stand? What? So that was obviously my body telling me I had to get out. And so I spent my quarantine really working on yoga and working on meditation, and learning tarot was one of the biggest things. I actually had a tarot deck that my best friend had given me because she was interested, and she just didn't really vibe with the one that she bought. She thought she did, but she didn't. And so she gave it to me, and I didn't really vibe too well with that one either. And so it took me a little bit longer to really progress into it, because having the right deck is very important. And I knew that I was interested in tarot, but those cards just, the artwork didn't it didn't resonate. The cards were too big, so they were hard to hold in my hand. And so I ended up finding a deck, an animal spirit guide deck that I really liked, and I kind of use that one sparingly here and there when I feel called to it. And I found it's called like the Star Spinner Tarot deck or something like that. I will like leave a link below or something like that. But it just like, it changed everything. I was immediately drawn to it. I love using them. I love carrying them. I have them in my bag with me at almost all times. I have them on display in my room. There's like a hair that's bothering me. And really having the right deck made all of the difference. And started to push me more from just being interested in, you know, obviously empathy and understanding people and astrology, like, oh, maybe I want to be a psych major, to like, no, this goes deeper than that. And so I started practicing and I started meditating, and I had like a whole altar situation set up with like my crystals and some candles and my cauldron. I don't really know if I'd call it a cauldron. It was a very small, my friend bought it for me when I moved to Texas, and it's just like a little rose made in India bowl, I guess you would just call it. I don't know. It's the kind of thing that you would like kind of mince together like herbs and stuff. I haven't done like an actual spell or made charms or anything like that yet, because I think I'm just scared to, because I'm worried. I'm like, what if it doesn't work and then it ruins the whole, like, what if this is all an illusion and whatever. I've had plenty of experiences that have shown me that this is very real, at least to me. And so I'm kind of like, that will be my, like, indication. but anyway, so I would do meditations and I would do tarot readings. And so I had 2 very vivid visions while I was meditating that made it very clear to me that this wasn't just an interest. This wasn't just like some illusion in my head. The younger woman ended up being Molly Fitzgerald, but she looked like younger. She didn't look the way that she does in like her mugshots and stuff. And she looked super familiar, and I found out why later, because I had seen her. She was a minor character in Captain America, the First Avenger, and she killed her mother in her own home, stabbed her like 9 times or something in self-defense. So the anguish that I felt was, and I didn't know that it was in self-defense, it was still kind of in processing when I had this vision, but they found out that it was in self-defense, and all I felt was the anguish and the pain. And I don't know why I was meant to see that. I don't know why, but I saw it, and I didn't take long for me to research and to find that actual story and article. I had never seen that before. I never knew that that existed. I don't really watch the news. I don't click on Google articles that pop, like, I didn't know. And I saw the whole thing in my head. I also had a vision where I saw this very like classic grandma looking home, you know, the one with like the pink china and the frilly like doilies and stuff. I saw that. I saw a woman who is probably in her 60s and her daughter having an argument, and then just anguish and pain and sorrow. And the woman looked like, I can't remember her name. Hold on. I'm sitting at home editing, and I realized that I never pressed record, or I never pressed unpause or something to actually tell you guys the visions. So I'm gonna tell it to you right now. The first one was not related to me. It was a vision about, I get flashes of like pink china, classic like kind of cutesy grandma's house, like with like the doilies everywhere and everything is like frilly and cute and whatever. And so I see that, and then I see about a 60s, in her 60s woman and a younger woman who is in her late 20s, and she looked really familiar. So I looked it up. I also felt intense anguish, like horrible anguish. And so I looked it up. I looked up murder, and I looked up a few key points. I don't remember exactly what I looked up because I was so shocked. The murderer was Molly Fitzgerald, who was a small part actress on Captain America, the First Avenger, and she stabbed her mother several times in self-defense in her own home. And I couldn't recognize her, for one, because she was such a small part. I saw her more for how she looked when she was in Captain America, not for how she was now. So I don't know why I was meant to see that, but it was obviously very jarring to me after I realized that it was an event that actually happened, and particularly feeling the anguish and the sorrow and the
regret and grief and why did this happen, and like just feeling what she was going through. Her suffering must have been so great for it to have reached me, and I will never forget it. The second vision is going to have to be very vague because I need to protect somebody, but I had a vision of me and a younger girl, and she was showing me that she got a tattoo, and I was very, very worried for her. I was very worried that she was going to get called out as a witch. I could tell that it was, if that's what it was. I was very concerned that she was going to call attention to herself and that she was going to endanger herself. And then, same meditation session flashes forward to me being dragged through town. I saw like a tent. I remember seeing like a big tent. It kind of looked like one of those, like, I don't know, when you go to like a park and you have a picnic and they have like the big like posts. I don't know what those things are called. I was being dragged through that to the stake. And I saw a bunch of villagers gathered around, and so all my people. And then I saw the girl, and I was very worried for her, very scared for her. So I get tied up, and in my vision, in my meditation, I felt what it was like to be burned alive. I can't describe it, and it's not like I felt it happening, but I felt the energy behind it. I felt the closest thing that I possibly could have to being burned alive, because in another life I truly and 100% believe that I experienced it, and that was very unsettling. Very unsettling to me. And proceeding a couple years later, I believe that the girl and I were reincarnated to be in each other's lives, and that I'm meant to protect her. And so that is all I will say on that matter. But having those visions really were the first time I've ever experienced anything like that, because the things that I experience tend to be more audio and feeling. I actually forgot to include this the first time around in recording, but something that I haven't really actually explored too much yet or learned to understand is, ever since my teenage years, right before I go to bed, most nights, I will hear like a conversation or like hear voices. And it's not throughout the day, it's not like somebody telling me to do something, but it's like in my head I hear voices, but it sounds like the closest thing they could be to being in my head while also being in my ear. And there's one that I always remember, and it is this probably in his 60s black guy, very wise, very respectable looking, obviously a very spiritual person. And my mom has actually seen the same person in some of her dreams, and that he has given her various messages and things as such. So I really want to explore more of the clairaudient aspect, which is like the all-hearing aspect, but I don't know too much about it, so that's all I have on that account for you guys as of now. Anyway, back to the rest of the other video that I filmed.
So some time goes on, and we get to October 2020, and if you saw one of my most recent videos where I'm like basically crying the whole video, you would know that at the end of October, a friend of mine, an old friend of mine who I had a falling out with and just always thought I would get around to and have the opportunity to make up with, took her own life. And a couple days later, 2 days later, 3 days later, find out that my uncle passed away, and he had lupus for 7 years, long time. He fought lupus for a long time, among other things. And that hit hard. That hit me very hard. The past 2 months have felt like 6 months. And I was really lost and really hurt and really broken. And I smoked. I allegedly, maybe, potentially smoked every single day for 2 months. The last time that I smoked was New Year's Eve. I haven't since then. I need to take a break. But doing that, smoking, two things. One, it was escapism, for sure. It was a way to kind of quiet things down and calm myself down and get into a better headspace, but it also broadened my mind in ways that I've never experienced before, particularly when infused with that pain and that trauma and loss and grieving. It made me think a lot. And I usually can't really hear my thoughts clearly. I usually, in the past, had a very hard time pinpointing sentences and full, like, thought threads. It was just a lot of, like, jumbled mess up in here. And strangely enough, smoking for me really helped me to focus on the things I was thinking and focus on coherent ideas. And it unlocked something in me that shifted my perspective entirely. The combination of the smoking and the trauma and the pain and the loss. And this is still very fresh. But I just knew that I couldn't live the way that I was living before. I couldn't keep ignoring my spirituality. I couldn't keep ignoring these things that have been pushing at me, because now I had spirit guides. Once I could muster up the courage, I started to talk to them. I would come to the park just like this. I've been coming here a lot, and I would just sit and I would talk to my uncle. I would talk to my uncle Brian. So my uncle Timmy passed away recently. My uncle Brian passed away in 2013, and I never felt his presence. I felt the loss, but I never felt his presence. But recently, I've felt his presence a lot. My mom says because he had to take care of his immediate family because they were struggling, and now he has a little more time to visit. I feel his presence a lot. There'll be times where, like, I am writing in my journal, or I'm just sitting out here and the wind picks up really hard and I start thinking about him, and I know that he's here. And I will come to the park and I will sit and I will just talk to them. I would talk to Portia and I would say all the things that I wish I said. And she has been a very creative influence and motivation for me. She was an amazing artist, and she was full of so many concepts and ideas that I've just never seen before. My Uncle Timmy, I think, is still with his immediate family, with his daughters. I haven't sensed him. I haven't really seen him at all. I keep asking my other spirit guides to, like, send him messages, because he visited my mom in a dream and said that he right now couldn't be with us and that we would see him later on. So I think that he was just really depleted and his spirit was just really already low energy. So I come to the park and I talk to them and I meditate and I write poetry, and my uncle and I actually wrote a poem together, which I made a video about and I will share with you guys. One of the strongest presences that I've been feeling is 2 weeks ago, my great-grandma's boyfriend. I don't think they ever got married, so it feels weird saying boyfriend because they were together for over 10 years. Passed away from pneumonia. He was in the hospital. He passed away. And I've been feeling him a lot lately. A lot. Whenever I would visit them, he would always encourage me to speak in French because he knew I was taking French and he knew I really liked the language. And so lately I've been feeling overwhelming urges to take French again because it's been so long and he knew that I loved it so much. I didn't say that this made it easy, but it's made it easier to cope with everything that's happened and with everyone that I've lost. And it's really shifted my perspective. I carry crystals now, I meditate, I do everything I can to be grateful and to just live my life and to be in the present moment and to not fixate on what I don't have, but work on what I can right in this moment to get to where I want to be. And because of that, I'm happier, being in Texas, despite the fact that I just want to be with Benjamin, my long distance boyfriend who lives in California. I just want to convert my van so I can move into it, like, but I'm so much more content with where I am now, sleeping on a living room floor in a state that I don't really like, just from all of that. This year was one of the hardest years of my life. One of the hardest years of my life. But it led to me diving in so much deeper to my spirituality, to myself, to connecting and grounding and being and practicing mindfulness and devotion. And part of me wishes that I could undo so many things from this year, so many things. But no matter what, I'm grateful for where I am right now. I'm grateful for where I've come, from how far I've come. And so that's how I got here. Not to mention that I recently made a very good friend at my job who is also very interested in these kinds of things. We seem to be very in sync. She is very spiritual. My friend Skylar. Love Skylar. She is an Aries, Capricorn, Virgo, and I am an Aries, Taurus, Taurus. So we're both fire and then earth, moon, and risings. And we just have so many things in common. Like, oh my goodness, we constantly are having dreams that the other person's in, or like, the other day I said something and she's like, did you say that the other day? And I was like, no. And she's like, I had a dream about this conversation. It's weird. It's crazy. But I'm really happy to be progressing the way that I am. I'm happy to be where I am right now. I'm happy to be making friends that are similarly aligned with where I want to go and who I want to be. And I'm just grateful. And it's been hard. It's been a trek, but I'm grateful. And so that is my story. That is why I am spiritual, why I have been so assertively spiritual, and why this year my content is going to veer towards more spirituality and my spiritual journey and awakenings and realizations and healing and all of those kinds of things. I will have an upcoming video this month on the poem that I wrote with my uncle, the building my van videos on healing my sacral chakra and dealing with PCOS holistically, and all kinds of things like that. So I hope that you guys are excited. I am sorry if this shifted away from content that you were hoping for, expecting, whatever, but this is my story and this is how I'm gonna tell it. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you gained some insight. Maybe if you have any questions down below, or any comments, anything that you notice, parallels between my journey and your journey, I would absolutely love to hear them. I would absolutely love to correspond with people who are getting into their journey, things that help them as well. Any resources that you know or have. I am learning. I'm going to be a teacher while I am a student, so I will be teaching you as I learn. But I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, your week, your month, and your existence, and I cannot wait to catch up with you guys next time. Bye guys.